Good morning. Welcome everybody to episode 7 of Coffee with the Raptors. Nice to have you back. Thanks for tuning in again today. It's a little bit warmer here in Fort Collins. I've got my bird nerd mug, but just drinking some cold tea today. Hope you all have something yummy to drink with us this morning. We're excited for this episode. We're going to be kind of talking about lots of things Swainson talks. Absolutely love this species of raptors, so delighted to get to talk about some of the work that we do with them and some of the collaborations with them. I do want to continue to thank Platte River Power Authority for sponsoring this live stream. This is a wonderful partner that has been incredibly beneficial to the Rocky Mountain Raptor program as well as to the raptors out in the wild. So a huge thank you to them for their support and for their concern of our environment and our wildlife. Don't forget, if you are watching us live, if you have any questions, anything you'd like to hear about, feel free to drop it down there in the chat, and I'd love to answer that and give you some more information. But let's kind of check in on what's been going on around the center here. Let me pull up my most recent report from our Rehabilitation Department and see what's been going on there. So as of January 31st, there was one release in the past week. A great horned owl admitted in early December from, didn't say where, but this bird had old head trauma and emaciated, and that bird went away, back out to the wild. So glad to see that one head back out there. And then 4 new birds came into us in that week, putting us at 15 raptors admitted into our rehabilitation department so far for the year. We are definitely ahead. Last year we hit 15 raptors, on February 14th. So we're definitely about 2 weeks ahead of where we were last year. We got in a red-tailed hawk, a great horns, hit by car, lodged in the grill of the vehicle. That happens, unfortunately, sometimes. But sometimes birds can recover from that. And unfortunately, this one was not treatable and was euthanized. We did get an adult bald eagle in with head trauma and lead toxicosis. You may have seen on our Facebook page a story and a report about that bird. He is in the critical care unit getting supportive care and some treatment for that lead toxicity. So we will do everything we can for that guy. And another great horned owl. So kind of the bigger birds coming to us this week, but that's all right. We're here whenever they need us. Let's check back in with our patient that we've been following. This is great horned owl 21273, which tells us he was admitted in 2021. It was the 273rd bird that came into us this year. You can see there he is in our critical care unit with a bandage on his wing because this bird had some shoulder trauma. Last time we checked in with him, he had just moved out to an small outdoor enclosure, but I got word this morning that he has moved into a larger flight enclosure, which is great news. That's the next step towards release. He's undergoing flight evaluation to see how that shoulder is functioning and make sure that his wings are moving and functional in all the ways that they need to be. So he is moving forward and doing excellently. So we're very proud, very pleased to see the progress on this particular individual. Our education team has been pretty busy too. We've got our 18 ambassadors that we care for every single day, and we've been out and about doing some education. A couple of weeks ago, we got to go out to a local reservoir and collaborate with the City of Fort Collins natural areas to bring out some of our golden eagles for what they do all weekends during the winter. They do what's called an eagle watch. This particular reservoir, there's a number of bald eagles that congregate. About 25 to 30 bald eagles come out there and winter at this reservoir. And so the natural areas sends volunteer naturalists out to help people get to see the eagles with spotting scopes and talk to them about eagles and what's going on. And we were thrilled to bring out our live ambassador eagles for people to get to meet. And we're actually doing that again this afternoon. So I'm very excited, very much looking forward to getting to talk to the public about eagles. They always enjoy getting to see them up close, which is a wonderful experience. And program requests are rolling in for the spring school semester. Schedule starting to fill up and get populated for the summer. So we have some amazing events coming up and some great opportunities for all of you who are local to come see us. So keep an eye on our calendar of events. Keep an eye on our social media, and we will be posting where we're going to be and when on all those sources, so you know where to go and where to see us. The big thing that we have coming up, of course, is our Gala. The end of this month, February 26th, we will be over at the Hilton doing an in-person Gala event. We will also be live streaming this event right here on YouTube. If any of you remember, we did a live stream version of it last year due to COVID, and we'll be doing that same thing again this year. So if you are comfortable and you wish to join us in person, tickets are on sale right now. Please go get your ticket and get registered for online bidding of all of our wonderful Gala auction items at biddingforgood.com. If you are not comfortable coming, but you wish to attend virtually, you don't need to have a ticket, but do register at biddingforgood.com so that we can contact you with any important information or updates, as well as links to where you can go to see the video and be available for you for any troubleshooting that you might have with any of your online bidding. So there's two different ways depending on what you want to do. We are really looking forward to this and excited to be able to get back and do this in person again. So that is coming up very quickly. We here at the Rocky Mountain Raptor program, for those of you who may not know or who may have forgotten, our mission here is, of course, to do the rehabilitation, to rescue these raptors in need, bring them to our facility for care with that goal of getting them back out into the wild. We also, of course, provide our education to the community about the work that we do and these wonderful creatures that we share our spaces with, why they're important, and how each individual person has a role to play in keeping them safe and providing for their needs while providing for our own needs. And a lot of this work happens through collaborations, such as those Eagle Watches that I mentioned, where we partnered with the City of Fort Collins Natural Areas to make that event happen. We not only partner in our education, but we partner in our rehabilitation as well. And there's a number of organizations around the state that work with wildlife in general, or raptors in particular, that we collaborate with to provide the best sources available for these injured creatures to get the care that they deserve. And today I'm really excited to bring one of these great partner organizations to all of you. We have a special guest, Emily Davenport from Nature's Educators, and she's going to come on and join us here so we get a chance to meet Emily. Roll on that, grab your seat. Hi, Emily.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for joining us.
Of course, my pleasure.
You have an owl mug. I love it.
I do, of course.
What are you
Very
drinking?
important. Just some coffee today. You need some good coffee for interviews like this, so gotta stay caffeinated.
Absolutely. Cheers.
Yes,
Thanks for
cheers.
being on.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
So, Nature's Educators. Tell us a little bit about your organization.
Yes.
What do you do there?
Sure, absolutely. So Nature's Educators, first of all, started as an educational outreach organization back in 2008. And we have been a champion for wildlife here in Colorado and neighboring states from that time. And to date, we do over 1,000 programs every single year. So we're one of the largest educational outreach groups in Colorado. And so we utilize non-releasable birds of prey, just like you guys do, for education, as well as reptiles, amphibians, and then some domestic mammals as well. So we can kind of have a wide education message that way. back in 2020, the founder, Devin Jackie, and I started talking about the potential of bringing wildlife rehab to nature's educators.
Right.
And we saw a need in the community. We are based down in Douglas County currently. We also have a big education facility down in Florence, Colorado. And we saw a need in the Douglas County area. There's something called a rehabilitation desert. That term has been coined for parts of the Denver metro area where there are no rehabilitation services.
Right.
And Douglas County is one of those areas. So we saw a need. They brought me on specifically for that reason to kind of start a wildlife rehab program at Nature's Educators.
Right.
In our first year, we took in 53 bird patients. And then last year, we were able to help 121 patients.
That's a big jump.
Yeah, big jump. And so we're trying to thoughtfully grow year after year just so we don't, stress our resources and that sort of thing.
Yeah. So there are in Colorado, I feel like we're really lucky that we have actually, compared to many states, we have a large number of wildlife rescue and rehabilitation organizations. Granted, there are still those deserts that you mentioned. There's still parts of the state that are not served. But if you look up and down, especially the Front Range, for wildlife in general, there's somewhere around a dozen different rehabilitation organizations. If you go somewhere, I believe Oklahoma doesn't have a single one within the entire state. And so that varies state to state. But it's really great to see Colorado being able to support so many of these organizations. And I think it says a lot about how much Coloradans value our wildlife.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's really important that we take that collaboratory approach to helping wildlife in our communities. And for me specifically, I'm the medical director at Nature's Educators.
Okay.
So not only do I take care of and lead our rehabilitation program, but I also help with ambassador needs as well.
Right.
So I have been given the nickname the flight medic also from time to time.
Fun. Yeah. And so, as I mentioned, you've collaborated with the Rocky Mountain Raptor program. Hang on, let me say that. In a couple of different ways. There's one in particular, a currently ongoing collaboration that's happening right now.
Yes.
With a pair of Swainson's Hawks.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about that. What's
going
on?
So collaboration is very important to us at Nature's Educators. It's actually in our mission statement as well. That collaboration is a part of what we do and why we do what we do. And as many of you may know, starting a rehabilitation program is difficult. It often takes a lot of expensive flight cages and medical equipment and things like that. So without the collaboration that I have with Rocky Mountain Raptor program, I would not have been able to start my rehabilitation program down in Douglas County.
Oh, wow.
Because a huge flight cage, for example, one that would house eagles, could be over $100,000. And so that's a barrier to entry that most rehabilitators can't take.
Right.
And so I was passionate about starting a rehab program, and you have to start getting creative about how to do that. And so thank goodness I reached out to Gail and Mike in the Rocky Mountain Raptor program and said, would it be possible if I could start the rehabilitation process, get our larger birds, like hawks, great horned owls, eagles, through their initial medical injuries and illnesses, and could I transfer them when they're ready for flight exercise? And thank goodness they said yes. And so for that reason, our partnership and our collaboration with Rocky Mountain Raptor program, we can save more raptors that way. Mm-hmm. And so I am indebted to you guys and so grateful for the partnership that we do have. And yeah, currently you guys have 2 immature Swainson's Hawks that we rehabilitated in 2021.
And I actually have some pictures of them. Yes. Here they are.
Yes.
These 2. Do you remember the stories on these?
I do, actually, yeah. So both of these birds actually came in at the end of August, early September, and both were not quite fledglings yet. They're what's considered branchers, and so they hadn't quite left their nest, but in fact, they had actually left their nest tree early. So they shouldn't have been on the ground yet. They shouldn't have fledged. So something was wrong with them. They were picked up by well-intentioned individuals, people in the public that knew something was wrong with them, and so brought them to us. Upon admission, both birds were extremely emaciated. So they were very, very skinny. They had a very poor body condition. And they both had some neurologic symptoms as well. And so those clinical signs that we saw kind of led us to wonder if they had West Nile virus.
Right.
Which is
That's a typical sign.
yeah, it's very common in Swainson's hawks here in
Yeah,
Colorado.
we see it all the time in our Swainson's hawks for sure.
Yep. And thanks to you guys, we were able to do that important testing to confirm my suspicions of West Nile virus. So both of these birds, luckily, we were able to get them through their emaciation, put some weight on them. They started out in one of our smaller flight enclosures on our property, and then when they were really ready for true flight exercise, we transferred them to you guys.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they missed migration. So,
Yeah, that happens.
yeah, so as you guys will learn, they're a very highly migratory species. So you guys have been kind enough to overwinter them for me, and it sounds like they're doing well still. And
They are, yeah. I checked in on these. So the one on top is patient number 21222, and the one on bottom is 21221. So those are their numbers that we gave to them for our record keeping. These guys are currently out in our largest flight enclosure with all the other Swainson's hawks that we're overwintering. We've got a large group out there. Swainson's hawks are real social, so they do best in a group. Um, they can get self-destructive and unhappy when they're housed alone, especially when they're young. And so we group them all together as long as they're all healthy and getting along well, which they all are. These guys are going to stay with us until not next, this coming fall when migration begins again. And we will, at that time, find a migrating group of Swainson's hawks, also called a kettle, and then we will gather up all the Swainson's hawks that we have in-house that are ready to be released. Most of them will be juveniles, and we will take them out and release them into this gathering group because we've learned that it's the only way to ensure that they connect with a migrating group to find their way to the wintering grounds in Argentina. It's not an instinctual route. They don't know this. They have to learn it from an adult. And that's why we overwinter the juveniles instead of releasing them at random times, so that we give them that single best chance that we can at survival in the wild. And so we're pleased to be able to offer a place for these guys, give them the care that they need to continue to heal. They're doing great. Last I checked in on them, 221 is making it up to the high perches, landing well, eating well, and then 222, who originally had some trouble landing and moving around, is now doing excellently and has been described as feisty. So definitely keeping our rehabilitation team on their toes.
good, wonderful.
So they're doing amazing. We at our team have some educational ambassadors, Swainson's hawks, so we'd love to share our ambassadors with you. Do you guys have ambassador Swainson's at Nature's Educators?
We do. We have two ambassadors, Swainson's hawks. A Boreas, who's been with us for a long, long time, and has done many educational outreach programs, and then a brand new kiddo that hasn't quite hit the surface yet.
Okay. I really enjoy working with the Swainson's hawks. They're pretty sweet little birds. When they're in a good mood, they can certainly have attitudes and opinions of their own. Prior to migration, they go through a period called hyperphagia. They just want to eat a lot, pack on a lot of energy for migration, so they can become a little more challenging to work with. This one that you see here, introduce you to her because she is one of my favorites to get to work with. She's having her breakfast right now. This is Swainson's hawk Fracture, and we named her that because she came to us actually through another one of our partners. She came to us through the Teton Raptor Center. And so this is another organization that, like Nature's Educators, we have previously brought patients to our facility. They're located all the way up in Jackson, Wyoming, so it's a bit of a distance. But we've brought them down to do that same kind of flight testing. They were fortunate to just recently complete their own flight enclosures to be able to do that at their facility. But prior to that, they, like you, didn't have the space because it's so expensive, and we did. So they would bring them down to do the flight testing. So this particular individual was, we suspect, hit by a car and suffered a fracture to one of her wings that they were concerned about her flight ability. So They sent her down to us. We did flight testing, and we found that she can fly pretty well, but not quite good enough. Unfortunately, the break didn't heal up exactly in the best way. The two ends, instead of meeting nicely end to end like they should, one end sits on top of the other. It's called an overriding fracture. And this affects the rotational ability of her wing, which is critical for in-flight, long-distance flying adjustments. And so because she has that rotational deficit, we can't guarantee that she can survive migration. And we're not going to release a bird that we don't know can survive in the wild. That's not what we're about. And I know you guys wouldn't do that either. And so we decided that she would be suitable to join us as an ambassador. And she has been with us since 2011. So that was her first year when she was hatched. So she is 11 years old now and getting up there. Not too terribly old, but starting to get up there. She's fun because she lays eggs every spring too. So that's a wonderful thing that shows us she's comfortable and feels secure in her space to put those resources into producing and laying eggs. I don't know if you have any egg layers on your team.
Oh, we do. Yes, we have quite a few, but in particular, our female American kestrel likes to lay for us every year.
They will fiercely defend those eggs. They may be small, but when a female kestrel, we used to have one too, defends her eggs, man, I'm gonna back up because they're fierce about it.
Yeah, definitely.
So she's a wonderful ambassador. If you're out and about and you see us in the public, you're gonna definitely get to see her. She's one of our hardest working birds. So I certainly look forward to being able to share her with the public. So Emily, you've been with Nature's Educators now, you said 2 years as a rehabber. Do you have, it's hard to pick, but do you have like a favorite raptor you've gotten to work with or a favorite success story? Something that's been really meaningful to you?
Yeah, sure. Every bird that comes in is special for one reason or another. My goal as a rehabilitator is to consider that individual that comes into care, making sure that I'm alleviating their suffering, helping them through that healing process if possible. But I also consider the population as a whole, the ecosystem as a whole, and then the community as a whole as well.
Yeah.
So they're all important. But there was a special case last year,
Okay.
and it just so happens it's not a raptor. But last year we got an immature common raven in. They are actually my favorite birds to rehabilitate. They're highly intelligent, highly social birds. This bird had become entangled in a fence at Lowe's, a Lowe's parking lot.
Oh, okay.
And he had what's called an open fracture of his tibiotarsus, which is kind of the middle part of his leg. And so that fracture was exposed to the air. Luckily for him, it was a very fresh fracture, so it had just happened.
Oh, good.
And we were able to quickly get him to our veterinary hospital, working with our veterinary partners. There's another one of those collaborations that are so important to what we do.
Yeah, we do too, yeah.
With the help of our veterinarians, we were able to get the bones aligned, get the bones back into the skin where they're supposed to be. We were able to wrap that leg, and he was really a long shot. I kind of prepared my interns and my staff that he may not make it, and this was a really bad fracture. There's a chance for infection. Generally speaking, we keep legs wrapped for about 2 to 3 weeks, depending on the severity of the fracture. And so we took his wrap off at about just a little over 2 weeks. And without even feeling the bones or feeling the legs, I immediately blurred out, "Oh, it's not healed." And then as I kind of investigated a little further, I was like, oh, this leg is stable, and oh my gosh, he's able to use it, and oh my gosh, this is great. And so he continued through his rehabilitation process. We kept him inside for another week or two to ensure that he was able to use it in a small space. And then we sent him out to our flight enclosure, and he was able to perch, he was able to hit perches, he was flying without any issues.
Oh.
And so we actually got permission to soft release him or hack him out on our property because it was within that 10 miles of where he was found.
Right.
And he was released, and actually he released himself after a couple days.
Sure.
And he has been seen on occasion. He has a slight hitch in his walk, but he's been seen on occasion flying around the Castle Rock
that's
really cool.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Ravens are wonderful birds,
Mhm.
as you said. They're super curious,
Yeah.
super smart.
Mhm.
I love to watch them as they do their hop, 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 hop around. I think of them as kind of the stately old grandpa who
Sure.
will steal fries from your
Sure.
plate when you're not looking.
Yes.
They're quite mischievous birds,
Yes.
but yeah, they're a lot of fun for sure. You bet. So, as you mentioned, costs, problems. Fundraising is certainly a challenge. Getting an organization going, getting a whole department going is a big challenge, and then continuing to sustain the work that you do. And that's something that we struggle with as well with our education and outreach, trying to utilize fundraising as well. Gala coming up, got to have our fundraising
Right.
to be able to support all the rehabilitation work and the money that goes into it. But in addition to that, there's also the component of public collaboration. It's not just organizations like us who have a role in getting these animals healthy and keeping them in the wild, but it's people like you who help us in a very similar collaborative way. And for your organization, do you have any suggestions as to what might be something that whoever is out here watching us today, what might they be able to do as a citizen just in their daily life to help your organization, to help our organization, or to help the wildlife in general? Do you have a suggestion?
Yeah, absolutely. As we've heard the saying before, it takes a village, right?
It does.
It takes
does.
a village to help our wildlife and wild places. And it doesn't always mean a monetary donation. We, of course, at Nature's Educators, thrive on those monetary donations that you're able to make, especially to our rehabilitation department. That's how we fund the rehab and release of our animals. But there's so much you can do in your everyday life that can help a rehabilitation center, whether it be Nature's Educators or Rocky Mountain Raptor program or another one where you live. And it could be as simple as donating supplies, old towels, sheets, kennels, things like that are really helpful to programs like ours. Donating your time as well as a volunteer can also be a huge help to an organization like ours.
I know we could not do the work that we do without the volunteers that we have, and I know you guys have a big volunteer corps as well.
We do, we do. Yeah, we couldn't do what we do without our volunteers and our interns. So donating money, donating supplies, donating your time are all important. But even if you don't have the ability to donate those things, there are things you can do in your everyday life that help raptors and help other birds here in Colorado and around the United States. We like to talk about little conservation tidbits that we can give out to the public.
Yeah.
And so doing things like not throwing food out of your car. It's something so simple you can do to not attract animals and not attract raptors to the roadway, where oftentimes that's where they get hit, because the little tiny rodents and things like that
Right.
are coming to the roadway.
And if you, sorry,
yeah,
but
no,
if you've
please.
watched some of our other episodes, I think I've talked about this, where, yeah, throwing scraps of food like apple cores out the car window attracts the smaller rodents that eat them, which is prey for the larger birds like the raptors. And I know for us, birds being hit by cars is the biggest reason that they come into our hospital.
Absolutely, absolutely. Same with us too. Collisions are top of our list. So
Yep.
that's something simple you can do in your everyday life. Putting up window decals on your windows so that birds don't collide with windows as well.
Right.
Keeping your cats indoors, because even though we think of our raptors as these fierce predators, our small owls and our small kestrels still fall prey to cats that have been let outside. So that's one thing that people can do to help us do our job by being a responsible pet owner and that sort of thing. Not using rodent poison at home is another thing that you can do, because a lot of raptors get that secondary bioaccumulation of that poison as well. So there's a lot of things people can do in their everyday life to help us do our job too.
And it's indirect because it's preventing the raptors from even needing to come to the hospital in the first place. And that, of course, is ideal. This is the only job I've ever had where I can honestly say, I hope I do my job well enough to put myself out of a job. That the need for the education, the need for the rehab wouldn't even have to exist in the first place. And wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a goal, maybe someday. So, well, thank you for that. Those are all really great suggestions and wonderful ideas for how people can contribute in their own ways, no matter where they're at.
Of course.
So, We here continue our celebration with Swainson Talks with this week's Gold Star Raptor. And you mentioned you have a new Swainson Talk that hasn't yet hit the circuit.
Right.
So do we. This is the first time, this is the official introduction, if you will, of this brand new Ambassador Swainson Talk. Here's his picture for you. I say he, we're not entirely sure of the sex of this bird, but we will be testing and finding out for certain. This is Swainson Talk right now. We haven't decided on a moniker for this individual. He is in our education flight bank with all of our other ambassadors, and he is beginning his training. He's doing very, very well. He was transferred over to us from our rehabilitation department. He came into us after he was hit by a car. You can see that left wing droop there, and had a fracture to the left wing, and also later suffered some frostbite that caused the drop of some of the feathers on the exterior part of that wing, making him unable, like the Swainson Talk that you met earlier, to complete migration. And so this guy will stay with us. He is a hatch year, well, now he's in his, what do you call it, second year? Yeah, second year, after hatch year, because he was hatched in 2020, transferred to the education department in late 2020, I'm sorry, 2021. I got my years totally wrong. Hatched in 21, now 22. I should know that by now. And so he is coming up on being 1 year old. Still in his juvenile plumage here, and throughout this year and into the next, he'll molt into his adult plumage, and I'm interested to see what he'll look like when he gets to be adult. But he is Gold Star Raptor this week because he is doing so well with his training. One of our volunteers has taken on the lead training role with him, and he's been excellent at beginning to let her touch his feet and make that physical contact and come into his space without fleeing away from her. So he's developing the trust and the comfort in people that he needs to be a successful ambassador. And so we're just absolutely thrilled with the progress that he is making. And it'll still be a couple of months at least before he can come out into the public, but soon we will be able to bring this guy out to meet all of you and begin working as an ambassador as well. So congratulations to Swainson Talk. Blue, we could maybe call him. In the rehab department, he wore a blue band so that he could be told apart each. As we mentioned, we have multiples in the same enclosure, so we give them a colored band on the leg to tell the individuals apart, and he was known as Blue because he wore a blue band. So we've kind of been referring to him the same way until we come up with a permanent identifier for him. So he's our Gold Star. So Emily, what a joy. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for joining us. It's wonderful to hear about the collaboration that we've been able to do, the successes that you've had in your last 2 years. I continue to be blown away by the number of education programs that the organization does. I know you've got such a core of volunteers that help you with that, and it's significantly higher than what we're able to do, but it's just a different team of ambassadors and a different team of volunteers. So everybody's doing the best they can. And I certainly look forward to being able to see your Swainson Talk.
Yes.
Go away and never come back.
Yes.
That's always our hope with the patient.
Me too. Thank you for all you do to help us out, and happy to be here today and doing this with you guys. So.
Fantastic. Such a joy to have you on. For those of you watching, we do have one more episode in this series. Episode 8, which is our final episode, is coming up on February 20th. Again, here, 10 a.m. on YouTube. But again, if you can't join us live, of course, you can watch the recording later. Remember to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel to get notifications for when we post new content and when we go live. And until then, which is about 2 weeks away, hope you all have a wonderful February. If you're local, watch out for the next storm that's rolling through. I hear February is going to be particularly snowy and has started off that way. So stay safe, have a wonderful week, enjoy your local Raptors, and we will see you all again soon.